Okay, self-fulfilling prophecy, or call it also as Pygmalion effects, is characterized by the fact that people's expectations determine their behavior. So what we expect will determine our behavior. For example, if we say yes we can, so then is motivate us to achieve what we want to achieve. So Pygmalion effects is if we expect high, our behavior also will be high. That means the performance also will be high. If our expectation low, so that's the outcome also will be low. So for example, I show you this photo. If people believe in you, for example, if your teacher say you can do it, you can do it, so people expect high of you, then you try to fulfill this expectation, so you try harder, and then you be able to achieve what you want to achieve. For example, another thing is, if you look at these photos, a cat, if a cat expect that, or if the cat think that the cat itself is a lion, so he become more motivated to become better. So it is important to be confident in yourself. If you expect high, then normally you'll be able to fulfill your expectation. That's why it said Pygmalion effect, or self-fulfilling prophecy. Another thing is, when we talk about performance evaluations, normally in the organization, when you work after some time, for example, it depends on the performance evaluations, when normally the organization carry the performance evaluation. Normally they carry performance evaluation at the end of the year. So this performance evaluation will be done by manager, and normally it is subjective, or there are sometimes the objective measure that they try to fulfill, but sometimes it's based on the subjective term. That means it depends on the supervisor or manager perceptions. So these subjective perceptions can be problematic, because it is influenced by their selective perceptions, by their contrast effect, halo effects, or whatever effects that we discussed before. So this is very important, because when you work, your performance will be evaluated. If your manager or supervisor use this kind of subjective measure in terms of evaluating your performance, they may perhaps exercise one of these effects. So you have to be careful. You have to know how to counter attacks, or how to overcome the effects, for example, that we discussed before this, so that your supervisor or manager will not be affected, or will not be biased in terms of evaluation of your performance. So there are, however, some way, we call it rational model of decision making, and also there are also bounded rationality and intuition. So in decision making, or making decisions either by the supervisor or by yourself, normally we follow these 6 steps. First one, we define the problems, identify the the decision solution or criteria, and allocate weights, develop alternative, evaluate alternative, and select the best alternative. So these are the normal way, the rational way of making decisions. So there are 3 ways of making decisions normally being carried out by the organizations. First one, we call it rational decision making. Rational decision making consists of these 6 steps. Bounded rationality, it look like a rationality, it look like a rational decision making, but it's not really. And intuition is based on our gut reactions. So we're going to go one by one. So assumption of rational model. So when we talk about first, when we make a decision, we use rational decision making. Rational, normally we have the assumption that when we want to make a decision, if we follow the rational making decisions, we tend to have this assumption that the decision maker, that you who want to do who want to make a decision, normally you have the assumption is you have a complete information, and then you have the ability to identify all the relevant options. That means that this option solution, you have the ability, all the relevant options in an unbiased manner, and you could choose the option that the highest utility, the highest benefit. So here is last steps in the rational decision making is to select the best alternative. So here the assumption of rational is you choose the option with the highest utility, that's mean the highest importance, highest benefits. However, normally all this is not even it's not practical. So most decisions that in the world, in the real world, do not follow this rational model because it is impossible to identify all the relevant informations. It is impossible to provide the complete informations regarding the problem, especially if you have to make a decision in the certain period of time. So it is in no way you could follow all this step in the decision making. So sometimes you just make your decision based on the acceptable or reasonable solution rather than the optimal one, rather than having all these complete informations, rather than identify all the relevant options or choose the best highest utility or say highest utility. So normally you just find the best and acceptable. Normally you try to find the acceptable and reasonable instead of the best because it's impossible to find the best. So people normally are remarkably unaware of the optimal decision. That means they are aware but they don't have time to fulfill all the requirements, so they just find the most acceptable and reasonable solution for that time. So that's considered as a bounded rational. So bounded rational, in order to respond to the complex problem, you normally use the satisfies method. Satisfies method means you tend to seek solutions that are satisfactory and sufficient. For rational model, you just follow this step 5, 6 steps, and it mentioned here it's very difficult to find the best solution. And it is also difficult to have a conflict information in order to find the best solution. So you in bounded rationality, normally we use this bounded rationality instead of rationality. So here people just use satisfies. That means they just seek the solution that are satisfactory and sufficient only. Sometimes because if we don't have times, so we just use satisfied. That means we seek the solution that is only satisfactory and sufficient. So this we consider is bounded rationality. So how does bounded rationality works? In order to make sure this bounded rationality works, once you identify the problem, you need to search for criteria, and these criteria, maybe there are some list of criteria, so you go through one by one and try look for the solution that is good enough. So the list of the solution, you normally choose the one that is good enough, even though your information may be not complete, your selections or solution may be not really relevant, but you find the one that are good enough, that is to solve the problem. So good enough, this is how bounded rationality works. This is because rational model in the real world is something that is very difficult to do, because in order to compute all weight, calculate all the values and so on, it takes time. It costs is also very expensive and also takes a lot of energy. So because of that, so they use the best option. Normally that option is the one that is fast and frugal process. Fast mean quick, frugal mean you could save time, you could save money, you could save your energy. Sometimes it's not worth it to go over the limit, but at the end of the day you do not know whether that solution is actually the best solution. So if you just choose the best solution based on the good enough procedure, or because of the fast and frugal scenario or environment, maybe that's good enough for that decision. So this considered as a bounded rationality. Sometimes you need to use intuition also. So sometimes the problems is it's very difficult to solve, but using intuition actually is very useful because it's a kind of shortcut. But sometimes intuition, even though it's not rational, but it's not necessarily wrong or no contradict with the rational analysis. Sometimes you say that you use your intuition, that's mean you use your feeling, maybe because you think that's the best solution, even though it is maybe you think that it is quick, it is so intuition, in other words, intuition is also important. It can complement the rational way or the bounded rationality. So the key is neither to abandon this intuition. Instead, it should be used with the evidence and good judgment. That's mean need to be used in order to complement with the other decision making, either bounded rationality or rationality, because you cannot use 100% rationality because of constraint in terms of time, energy, and money, and so on. So sometimes decision making, when you make a decision, the decision maker themselves, they allow some systematic bias and errors to creep into their judgment. So it is important to focus on the goal. So if you focus on the goal, you'll be able to make a good decision. If you just sometimes you yourself, because as a human being, you tend to be influenced by biases, by any effects, by surrounding, and so on. So in order to make a good decision, you need to focus on goals. So without goals, you can't be rational. So you do not know what information you need. So if you focus on the goal, you know your target, you know how to overcome or what is the main goal of doing or of the purpose. So it would be easier if you focus on the goal when you make a decision. And also, because you cannot make a rational decision. Let's say you cannot make a rational decision, find a complete information, find relevance, detail, and so on. So you can look for information that these confirm your belief. Sometimes, in order to proceed with your ideas, you tend to try to find ideas that is in agreement with your ideas. So maybe that if you find information that in agreement with your ideas, maybe that's not very helpful. So in order to know whether your ideas or your solution to the problems is good or not, you look at the information that disconfirm your belief. If it disconfirm your belief, maybe there's something wrong with your solution. Or try or do not try to create meaning out of random event. For example, let's say your solution maybe suddenly your ideas maybe suddenly maybe relates to the problems, and then you think maybe this is the best. So do not try to create meaning out of random event. Perhaps random event happens, and then you tend to say that, oh, this is the sign that indicate that you need to use this signal, you need to use this solution. So try not to use random event as your evidence for your solution. So another thing is, for your alternative, or solution, try to increase your options. No matter how many options you identify, try to choose to increase your options. Your final choice can be no better than the best of the options. So try to find as much solution as possible, and try to find the best solution based on the good one, the acceptable one. So you need to read further in order to understand what is meant by this bounded rationality, intuition, and rational model of decision making.